My goodness. I wonder if he's coming for a reading. Oh, there you are, Odie Hawkins. My goodness, I was afraid I missed you.
You can't miss me.
Okay.
Unless I miss you.
Fair enough. My goodness, you look very futuristic.
Well, we're going to go a little bit. Let me settle back here. Settle back here for a moment.
Okay.
And hopefully take us a little bit into the future.
Oh, all right.
A little sip of tea.
All right.
I thought this evening I would take us into my extraracial genre.
Okay.
I've been
Science
writing books about, I'm not bragging about saying it, but it just happened that way. I've been writing books about different things, different genres, and it occurred to me, of course, we would have to get sooner or later into outer space, into extraterrestrial happenings, other galaxies, and so forth and so on. I was inspired to do this by my predecessor, and I like to think of as one of my literary mentors, Octavia Butler, and also Robert Heinlein and Isaac Asimov, and some other really fantastic science fiction writers. I don't consider myself a science fiction writer, but I would like to say that it's unavoidable if you live in these times that you would be forced to write about something science fictional. In this case, I'll start off with a book that we call Lady Bliss.
Okay.
Lady Bliss has a very interesting birth.
Mm-hmm.
A friend of mine named Ralph Vernon, who worked at Rockwell for a number of years, mentioned to me one day, he asked the question, Odie, what do you think that is going to be happening in the coming years concerning aerospace, space travel? I didn't have a clue other than the fact that there would be people going into space, no doubt about it. They've already been there, Gagarin and Stukhanov and whoever. He said, what would you be the biggest consideration to be made about what is going to be happening there? Once again, all I could think about was, I don't know, it's sex.
That's what he said?
That's what he said. It stunned me. They're going to be talking about sex. Not only that, they're going to be doing something about it. So when you get into long duration missions, what are they going to be talking about? What are they going to be doing? What are the considerations going to be? And so we sat down and talked about it. I didn't want to focus simply on some physical need or some romantic urge, but something a little deeper, and that would be love. So we hashed it about a bit, and he gave me as much technical help as you could possibly get, and I started writing a novel. The novel,
Who did the cover?
it's called Lady Bliss. A great friend of ours named Dixon,
Charles Dixon. Uh-huh.
Charles Dixon,
Mm-hmm. He worked on it for
He
you.
worked on it. He worked on it.
Fantastic. And he did some pictures of the different, of Lady Bliss, I gather.
He
Inside.
has done a number of things. He did some of the interior photographs, which have been airbrushed by the puritanical publishers
Yes,
because
that's what they
they
do.
couldn't make themselves believe that. Here's one example. For some reason, they airbrushed the woman's breasts. I don't know if you can see that.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
They the language is not pornographic or anything like that, but they were just so puritanical and afraid that people would misunderstand what the thing was about. But let me explain what the thing is about.
Oh, and Charles Dixon is primarily a sculptor, right? He primarily works in sculpturing or woodcutting.
Charles Dixon?
Yeah. He's rather
Charles and I
creative.
have worked on a number of projects together.
But what does he do primarily?
God only knows. Charles.
He's
Charles
creative.
is all over the place.
He's creative. This is true. Okay.
He's created, he has designed. Here's a man who suffers from an allergy that would cause him to die if he was exposed to certain kind of materials during the course of the making of his art. He uses plastic, he uses wood. He's a woodworker who's allergic to wood. So
Now that's an artist.
that's an artist. Whenever Charles gets ready to do a work, he has to determine what kind of space suit, what kind of beehive suit he has to put on, complete with air mask and the whole thing, in order to not breathe too deeply fumes from certain kinds of chemical materials, which is what glues and stuff like that are made of. He has to focus on those things in order to be able to determine whether or not he dropped dead. He's been actually sent to the hospital a number of times while working on pieces of art.
Yes.
So
Well, obviously, a good artist to draw pictures of something out in space.
he was the perfect person to do this because he was ready to go into space at any day. We
Right.
joke about it, but
Fantastic.
this is Lady Bliss.
Oh, who's it dedicated to?
Let me tell you. To several people, actually. It's dedicated to Darlene Bliss Dixon, who is Charles Dixon's wife. It's dedicated to Yvonne Bliss Vernon, who is Ralph Vernon's wife. This is the guy from Rockwell. And to Zola Salena Hawkins, who also has a extended nickname of
Moving right along.
the Cosmic Muff.
Okay.
And of course, Octavia Butler, who opened the doors for Lady Bliss to step through. Let me tell you the story of it rather than try to read material from it, because it's so interwoven and convoluted that it would take a reading to determine exactly what it is I'm talking about. So in this case, I'll have to take a coward step backwards and say, I can't read you what's in here and expect for you to understand what it is, but I can explain a little bit of what it's about. As I said earlier, in a conversation with Ralph, we talked about what it is that future astronauts on long duration missions into space might be missing or in dire need of. And we came up with love. This is the back cover.
Oh, okay.
The back cover was done by none other than Zola Salena-Hawkins. How interesting. Oh, anyway, Lady Bliss. The story in brief, without giving you a complete...
There was another artist did the back cover, but that's okay. Go ahead. That was DJ.
DJ Robinson, of
Yes.
course. How could I forget
Yes,
that?
right. Yeah, you did the back cover.
D.J. Robertson.
Okay.
Well, I stand corrected. This is Rob Vernon, and of course, this is yours truly. And this lady is
Lady Bliss.
Lady Bliss.
Ha ha ha. Okay.
In a discussion we had, it was determined that there would be 7 men who would take off on a long duration mission. And the consensus agreement is that they would have to have someone that they could confide in, someone that they would be in love with.
So we're not talking about necessarily a comfort woman.
No, we're not talking about a comfort woman at all. We're talking about someone who would be a composite, in a sense, a composite photo of each of the loved ones that these men were leaving. These are 7 men.
What kind of men are they?
It's a diverse group of people. There's a Native American, there's a Chinese American, there's an African American, there are some Appalachian guys, I think one. It's quite a mix.
They're Indian?
Excuse me?
Is there an Indian?
There is an Indian.
Oh.
And of course, there is an Indian, a Native American. A diverse number of people, diverse number of men. And as the voyage itself takes place, they are able to, like you go to an upscale hotel and you use your passport card to take yourself into the room. In each case, each of these individuals has a card that will enable them to go to a common room and dial in on the woman of their dreams, the woman that they would like to be with in space. And this is what happens. In each case, they are able to talk, to be friendly with, to hug, to kiss, and also to make love. But that's not the primary reason for their visit. Their primary reason is to relate to someone who can relate to the experiences that they're having in outer space. We know that people have something happen with their bones. The calcium in their bones diminishes. They wind up having different kinds of physical occurrences happen. No one has yet determined what would happen to any group of men, in this case just simply 7, but no one has been able to determine what exactly would happen with a collection of men over a long duration mission concerning their psychological behavior. Certainly they might suffer from maybe a strange form of post-traumatic stress disorder. They might have depression of a certain kind that we don't know anything about on Earth, because this is the ultimate frontier. It's out there, it's in space. They fall in love with the woman of their dreams, the woman in this special chamber
their own Lady Bliss, in other words, their own Lady Bliss.
Each of them falls in love with the woman of his dreams. And she is coagulated by molecular circumstances that can only be explained by knowing a whole lot about psychophysical, dynamic, supercultural, etc., etc. You get my point. They fall in love with her. The Mission Control Agency, which is monitoring all of what's going on with them, because they want to know exactly what is going to happen with some people, some men, going into space for long periods of time. They discover that Lady Bliss is the answer to their dreams. She might be the answer to all of the men on earth who are suffering from all of the problems that they're suffering from by not having someone to love, someone to talk to, someone to be with. Sex is a component that they think about, but it's not uppermost. It's a fine tea, it never gets cold. They fall in love with her. The Mission Control Agency discovers that it would be counterproductive to have these men return to Earth, bringing this avant-garde feeling, this incredible notion that it might be possible to have love conquer hate, to have love conquer war, to have love conquer all of the basic negative ingredients that infect the earth. It might even be responsible for establishing or creating a virus that would be wonderful and beneficial and beautiful. Can't have that. Too many monetary interests are involved in order. It's like having a cure for malaria. They've had the cure for it for years, but if it wouldn't make any money, then why would you release this on the people who most need it? Since they're the people who can least afford it. So, same thing happens here. Mission Control, and we know who they are, they're not just situated and established in one country, they exist all over our planet. These are the people who say, let's keep the prices high and the wages for the workers low. They are the people who say, let's see if we can make more money than we need so that we can starve the workers into creating more and getting less, and on and on and on. They have it entirely backwards. So these are the people who are responsible for saying to the astronauts, the 7 guys in space, we cannot have that creature of your dreams return to Earth.
So they wanted them to kill Lady Bliss?
They want to get rid of what she represents.
Why?
She represents love, and they want to get rid of love. They want to have money, and all that money represents as a symbol for love, rather than Lady Bliss.
And maybe also they were worried about what the society would say if they
society as a whole
spent that kind of money.
Would embrace Lady Bliss. If you had an opportunity, I know this is kind of awkward question for a lot of people to answer, but if you had a choice between having a fistful of money and a heart full of love, which would you choose? Don't answer that. I'm sure a lot of people would race to their computers right away to try to determine. It's like the old joke that they tell about Jack Benny. Robert stops him in an alley. He's walking away from the theater after having given a successful performance, and the robber says, all right, stick him up. All right, give me your life or give me your money.
Give me your money or my life.
And Jack, if you remember Jack Benny,
Mm-hmm.
an ancient comedian, standing there, and Robert says, "Okay, what you gonna be, pal?" He says, "I'm thinking
Yeah.
your
Give me
life
your-
for your money,
Give me your money or your life. Yeah.
money of your life."
Mm-hmm.
So in this instance,
Mm-hmm.
we wind up having these astronauts make a decision. Do we want to have a Lady Bliss on Earth, or do we want to do something else?
Plus, people are so critical, they would be upset that that organization has spent, a government agency has spent so much money to put a lady
That's
like
what I'm
that in
saying.
space.
It's
Yeah.
it's about money, money.
Yeah.
And they're saying, no, we cannot afford to have this kind of thing happen. We will have to have you destroy that
Creature.
person that you all have found so much love with.
So what do they do?
They jettison her.
My goodness.
In aeronautical terms, that simply means they release her from their space vehicle. She finds herself into a galactic jet stream that shuttles her onto a place that we know nothing about, but we can be sure that they're there. Ask DeGrasse Tyson. She winds up in a place called Azi. Azi.
Planet Az.
Planet Azi.
Okay.
Okay, I'm not going to spend a lot of time trying to explain what Azi is, but we might consider it a utopian place. Some things have been turned upside down. For example, on Azi, men have children. They can only have one per lifetime.
Men have children?
Yes,
Oh,
men.
I like
men.
that concept.
Only one per lifetime.
Okay.
For those women who've given birth to more than one baby, you can imagine what it would be like to have only one baby per lifetime. In addition to that, all the babies are born by C-section.
Okay.
C-section.
I like that.
They have what might be considered a perfect understanding of what it takes to have beings live together harmoniously with no malice or forethought.
So they don't have war? They don't have any type of war or?
No, war was outlawed many centuries ago in Azi. One of the things that happened was that, like the Mexican legend of Quetzalcoatl returning to Mexico, which is what they thought Cortez was until they discovered otherwise. One of the things that happened on Azi was that many light years before, the original goddess of Azi went away to do some other work somewhere in the galaxy, and left word that there might be someone else coming along who would also have different truths and different understandings of how it would be possible for beings to live together in peace and harmony.
Okay.
Who shows up but Lady Bliss?
Mm.
They think that Lady Bliss is the
Goddess.
goddess. Of course, Lady Bliss denies it. I was a part of this program, and I was jettisoned out to space because the Earthlings would not allow me to come back and present this great thing that I have to Earth. So she winds up being celebrated and established as the reincarnation of Lady Bliss, but lo and behold, This is the clave that announces the return of the real Lady Bliss.
Ah.
The real Lady Bliss, who comes onto the scene, sees what has happened, checks Lady Bliss, who has been jettisoned out of the aircraft, out of the space vehicle, greets her, embraces her as a sister, and they decide between them, after an evening of sipping lotus tea and having a fine time with a collection of very willing ASEAN men and women, because they are goddesses.
Yeah.
They decide that it would be both to their advantage and to the advantage of all the citizens of ASEAN to have a dual godship. So out there, somewhere beyond where we are now,
Planet AZ.
there are two beings who are considered it beings. It beings. Doing very, very happily, and that's basically where the story is. Now,
Okay, I've got to go mail a letter, okay, and can we come back to, you have a second book to talk about?
you betcha.
Okay, and then maybe later, I see you have the chessboard set up, maybe we can do a game of chess after you talk about the next book.
You betcha.
All right, I'll be right back, Mr. Hawkins. Hang in there. Maybe you can go get some more tea.